Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 198 of Lords of the Storm, the weekly Heroes of the Storm podcast for you, the true Heroes of the Storm. I am TBK. Joining me today is Multi, because, as we were mentioning before the show, Gizmo's job is very inconsiderate about his podcasting time.
Sure is. I really hope that Gizmo can make it to episode 200, because that would be really awkward if it's just you and me on that.
That would be super awkward. But speaking of, we got an episode 200 coming up in 2 weeks. Holy crap.
Do. I know. It's
I
crazy.
feel old. That will mark roughly, more or less, 4 years of Heroes of the Storm podcasting.
Yeah. No, that's pretty crazy. And we're going to
really
have to do some
time.
sort of retrospective on that time, of course. Make it a little special.
Yeah, it'll be good. Hopefully we'll have some fun stuff. TBD. But it'll be fun regardless. Because
Absolutely.
you guys will be there. That's right. You.
Specifically. Yes, you.
Yes,
the
you.
true Heroes of the Storm. Has Gizmo been saying that this
No, he
entire
hasn't.
time? Okay.
He's stopped saying that, but I've still got that the line in my head, and I like it.
He used to do it all the time for like 2 years, maybe
He did.
2-3 years.
He did. It's a good line. But Multi, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing well. Been playing some games and stuff. Of course, I got my Switch now, so I'm kind of going all in on D3, which is weird. Like I hit a point where I realized that the only class I ever played on PC D3 was the Wizard. So I'm like, there's this whole other avenue of playing the game that I've not even tried yet. And so really enjoying the Barbarian lately still. I made a Necromancer just because I can. And I found out that, like, so if you play a seasonal character on there, you have to be online at least when you start the game, because that, I guess, just loads all the seasonal stuff that you need.
Yeah.
So
then
you
you
can't
have
be
to
totally
switch
offline.
over to offline if you want a local co-op person to play.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of weird. So I made a Necro that's offline, just so that I can, if I take the Switch out on an errand or something, if I had a chance to play. So I've, of course, named that character Necroffline, because that's just a good
I'm actually playing a Necro too on my playthrough, because I never got the Necromancer content on PC.
No, neither did I. So yeah.
So that worked out really well, and it's honestly a really fun game on the Switch.
Are you level 70 yet?
No, we're working through the campaign.
Oh, that's cool.
Actually, right now, so we're almost done with Act 1.
You and the wife, or
yep, me and the wife.
Who's the we? Okay.
It goes a lot slower than your normal co-op game would probably go, because we get very limited gaming time together.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And so, but we're almost done with Act 1, and it's been a lot of fun so far. And
what's it like to co-op on the Switch, though? Because, like, do you have to occasionally just sit down in town and go through your menus and stuff?
Yeah, pretty much. You just have to take little breaks and be like, okay, I'm going to check my stuff, see what I got for level up, see what items I got. Okay, now it's your turn.
No, so you can only check once at a time?
Yeah, so you can only
sense.
check one at a time.
I don't know how they would.
You'd have to split screen it somehow,
especially on the small screen.
Yeah, that'd be super hard. So
yeah,
but yeah, it's a lot of fun. We played a little bit of that. I've been playing a lot of Heroes, of course. Imperius has been a lot of fun. I've really been enjoying him. So we're going to talk about him more in a little bit. I have been sucked into Witcher 3.
Oh, interesting.
I got it.
Okay.
I got it for Christmas from a family member for my Secret Santa thing, and so I've been I've been playing. I finished Black Flag, Assassin's Creed Black Flag, because I always like to have a single player game kind of going on the side. So I finished Black Flag, and then I started in on Witcher 3. I just got sucked in. I know I'm late to the party, but it's really good.
Isn't really that good. God, I should know this. What's the card game based on the Witcher series?
Gwent.
Gwent. That's right. I get all the ones that aren't as good as Hearthstone mixed up in my head. Gwent, Artifact, Eternal. Like,
I just learned how to play Gwent inside the game.
And how is it? Yeah.
I haven't really caught on to it yet. Seems
fair.
Yeah, I don't know. I need to play it a little bit more. What about you?
I've heard
What
some
have,
good
what
things
have you been
about how
up
the
to?
ladder works, but that's all I know. Yeah, I mainly Switch, and I did get some Heroes in for sure. Got to play some Imperius, and I got to play a little bit before they dropped him as well, just to keep moving along that game board, you know. But yeah, and again, we're going to talk about Imperius in a second, but I do like him quite a bit. And before we really get into like the meat and potatoes there on that, have you tried him with the golden chicken mount yet? And his normal skin?
I have not.
It's so good. It's like, because he just the regular base tint of no skin, you know, first tint, the pure gold version, just meshes with the chicken in such a way that like it's kind of like you kind of have to look to see where the angel stops and the chicken begins. And it's pretty good. It's pretty great.
That's amazing. He does the skin I've actually been playing with, because I didn't get the pack. But I probably would buy one of the demonic skins if they let me buy everything individually with gems.
And they might.
So
yeah.
I might get one. But he has an Iron Man tint.
Is that the third tint?
It's like the 5th or 6th tint.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's red, and his little symbol chest thing in the middle is blue, and it looks incredible.
What's that? What mount are you rocking it with?
The Celestial Surfboard. Because,
well,
he's a Celestial, right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Essentially, yeah. So I thought it was appropriate.
Got a kind of silvery tint, too. You could do a Silver Surfer thing on him.
Yeah, and I don't have enough shards to get his voice pack yet, so I'm using the Alarak voice pack in lieu of having the Imperius one. And it's essentially the same.
Is the Imperius one just as sarcastic?
I don't know. I haven't heard it yet.
I haven't either. It's got to be on YouTube somewhere. So.
Probably, but the Alarak one is a fine substitute.
Oh yeah. The question is, which of the two is more like, biting and sarcastic? We'll have to see.
I know.
Probably
I'm going to save up for it, or hope I get it in a loot box. But cool. We don't have a ton of stuff to talk through today. This is probably going to be, and I know I always say this, but this is probably going to be a shorter episode. Seriously, guys.
So
there's only a 50% chance I will eat my words.
So like 2 hours instead of 2 hours and 15 minutes. Is that what you're saying?
Something like that.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
So we didn't have a balance patch today, which is not super surprising. It's early January. They just got back from holiday. They're getting back in the swing of things. We should probably be hearing, I would think, some sort of announcement or blog post probably within the next few weeks, I would assume, about what their kind of content plan is going forward.
Yeah, I would think so. Although they did say that the first 2 months are pretty well in the bag, right?
Yeah, they said the first little bit isn't going to be affected at all, which makes sense because we know they work essentially 9 months ahead. And so they probably got, Imperius was probably essentially ready to be released. And so I'm sure the next one was getting close to completion as well. So it's more the stuff after that we're kind of wondering about, and that's what I'm hoping we'll see from them in some sort of blog post, or something here coming soon. Is, hey guys, we've met, we've talked. This is what we think we can do for the rest of the year, and then I would love to see an AMA come out
where they open it up to questions about that topic.
Yeah. It would. Yeah. You're always going to get PR'd to an extent, but it would be nice to have some sort of a post, say a post-apocalyptic AMA.
Post-apocalyptic, yeah.
Yes. Post-roster-apocalyptic, in the truest sense of the word.
That's more. Yeah, I suppose it was the most intense roster apocalypse ever.
Oh gosh, we shouldn't be laughing about it, but it's so
bad.
That's terrible.
There's speaking of just poking fun at the situation, which yeah, you kind of have to do. You got to laugh through it sometimes. The latest Dino Flask video, you know, the guy who goes through redubbing Jeff Kaplan's.
Yep, I just watched it before.
You just
before we
the
started.
very end part.
Yeah, where he talks about HOTS.
So brutal. Oh, that was awful.
So brutal.
Don't watch it. If you are
it's so sad.
But
let's talk about fun things, because there are a lot of fun things to talk about.
Bark Polo? Much?
Yeah. Let's jump into the news right now. Imperius patch came out. They released a little video, and like you said, we're getting a puppy.
Yes, and a cute one that's had a rough time, apparently.
So Oscar Vega, who is one of the coolest people ever, and he's actually staying on the Heroes team, which makes me super happy. He's done the concept art for basically almost all the major events in 2018. So like Nexomania was like him, and just tons of other stuff. But he based this off of a coworker's dog that was recovering from like surgery or something, had the cone. And so it's just a little puppy with a cone and like a little Band-Aid on its butt.
Presumably the surgery was.
Yeah. So so that is coming as a mount. There's going to be a new gold mount. I don't know if the crystalline saddled battle beast is in game yet or not, but that is going to be a gold mount that is either in or coming in soon. I couldn't find it, but I
didn't see a date tied to that one. I mean, there's a date for Barco Polo.
Yeah, I think it's the 22nd for Barco Polo.
Yeah, it is. And
best
is
name
he
ever
for gold mount as well?
We don't know.
Okay, I would assume.
Or if it's an event, or who knows.
Yeah, it kind of mirrors the Wonder William in a sense to me, because with Wonder William, he was at the tail end of a video announcement of some kind, and it was just kind of like, hey, here he is, he's going to come out on and then they gave the date. So I'm guessing it's the same kind of idea.
Yeah,
because
probably.
Too, like, they're probably building this model a little bit off of the Lu Chihuahua, so I would imagine like probably moves similarly, just looks, like totally crazy.
I mean, more pupper mounts is never a bad thing.
That's how they roll at Blizzard.
Yeah,
it is
they love their doggies.
Campus.
It is a very dog friendly. All their games are extremely dog friendly.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that is coming. That is really cool. Also, reporting in on Wingate, and if you haven't heard what Wingate is, this was a Reddit thing, and it came out when Imperius was released on PTR, because apparently, and it was actually kind of true to an extent, Imperius had really tiny wings.
Oh yes, he did.
Really tiny wings. Wimpy little wings, and it actually made him look like less imposing. Like they didn't quite suit his frame. So it was really weird. So there's a ton of posts on that. And then we got a really cool surprise when live dropped. His wings had been upsized.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he looks so much better now.
So much better.
Thank you, Blizzard.
His old wings kind of remind you of, when you go to a restaurant and you order chicken wings, and then they come out like normal size, and you're just sitting there going, well, these should be like genetically modified, right? To be just giant chicken wings. And now they have gone through and they've modified it to be giant. And I appreciate that. The other ones, the old ones did look a little wimpy. Like I didn't really
They
notice
really
it,
did.
But when the community started talking about it, because that's how this went down. I mean, Reddit kind of blew up with it a little bit. And they even say in the patch notes for today or yesterday that, the resounding feedback on Imperius's wings was discussed among the team, and we agreed with much of it. I like how they say that too, much of it. Because I'm guessing some of the feedback on there was like, when's this game coming out on phones? Do you guys have phones? But that's just Reddit. So,
yes.
No, this is good to see. Because you're right, in game now, like when you get in there and try
it's
him
good.
out, looks good.
Yeah.
He's imposing. He reminds you more of Tyrael than he once did, at least in the sense that, he's this presence in the lane that I don't think the wimpy little wings would have done.
No, and he's got, I love his walk animation.
Oh yeah,
he's just got this like strut that is so like
very fitting of him.
Bring it on, guys! I'm like top dog type thing.
Yeah, that's cool.
I really like it. He's got some really solid animations. So yeah, Imperius is out. He's playable. He's been out since yesterday. What do you think of him?
I like him. I mean, it is interesting. So, and we'll talk about this a little bit later too. There's a Math of the Storm article on him already, but it is interesting. So they're already out the gate calling him a bruiser, which to me also speaks to, I mean, the new role system, and whenever that's coming, they're already kind of thinking in that space when they're releasing these heroes, which is good. And yeah, so he's very interesting. He's when I first played him, just the little trial mode on the PTR that we talked about last week, I kind of compared him to Arthas, at least in like how his molten armor works and some of these other things. But now that I've played him at least a little bit more, I don't know. He's at least different enough that you can't really do a good one-to-one comparison. For instance, I think I saw Matt Villers tweet out at one point that if there's any hero he's most similar to, it's Sonya, in the sense that, like, I mean, he didn't really expand on that point, but I could kind of see it in the sense that, like, you dash in with a Q, you start doing some damage, some sustained damage with one of your abilities, and then you have this wave of damage with his W, the Solarian's Flare, and everything. So I think there's an apt comparison there, but I don't know. He doesn't feel like Sonya for sure. Which, by the way, speaking of Diablo 3, though, Sonya feels a lot like a Diablo Barbarian. Like, I had heard that, but until I actually played one in
It's
D3,
so true.
It is so true, and that's just kind of
They
awesome.
really nailed their Diablo characters.
I mean, it would have been a little easier to do because you're going like top-down isometric to top-down isometric.
Sure.
Right? So there's that, but no, they made it work.
It feels
sure.
good.
But
one thing I wanted to talk a little bit about Imperius, to even kind of address some of the Reddit talk while he was in PTR, before we kind of go deeper on impressions. I originally was tweeting about how I was very confused as to why people were comparing Blaze to Imperius, other than they both have some kind of fire, right?
Yeah, right.
They just felt, at least to me, they felt completely different. And so I was talking to Critic Kitten on a thread because he had some concerns, and Cosmic Cake jumped in, and she is actually the hero designer for Imperius. Really cool person. And I kind of wanted to talk about some of the things she said, because they're almost little insights into Imperius. So one of the things that had come up on Reddit was Imperius has these recycled animations. Like, people are comparing, this kind of looks like this animation, like his W kind of looks like Medivh's thing. The Q charge kind of looks like Kael'thas's stun, and just stuff like that. And so she jumped in and says, hey, I want to talk a little more about what you feel like is recycled. For Imperius's Q, Imperius himself has a fully unique animation, but we do use a height raising tech that is used elsewhere in the game. It is a reused animation in the same vein that we have a standard stun animation, etc. Additionally, while E at first glance may seem just like an AoE fire, it cycles between all the possible targets in range, which makes it very different from things like Frost Presence and Pyromania. It is most effective against a singled out target, and this also has a fully unique effects, because it was being kind of compared to Blaze's trait. So,
kind of. I do see the difference there, though, because you actually see the individual flames come out, and you can think through, okay, who's this targeting down as you go.
Exactly. And then we kind of talked through a few more questions. One of the big things that was asked, and I've seen this on Reddit too, is why isn't there, or was there consideration for like a slam at the end of his Q? Because he spears the people and then he kind of sets them down gently. Just right?
Calmly.
Yeah. And she says, no worries. We adjusted the height and drop timings a lot in development. For a long time, the stun time in Imperius's channel was exactly the same, which didn't leave room for a slam, but we later adjusted it so the channel ends slightly before. I think we could have added a greater impact to the stun end with the change, but it was honestly an oversight on my part.
Well, but at the same time, so if they're wanting the stun to last the same amount of time, in my mind, I think the cool thing about the ability is not, a slam and then putting in the stun animation. It's the lifting them off the ground, right? So like, if I'm going to spend that, what is it, a second, 1 second in this channeling this thing, I kind of want to just be hoisting them into the air. Like I don't want it to be a half-second hoist, half-second slam down, and they do the little stun animation, right? So I kind of like it the way it is.
Well, and partly too, you have to think about it because there is no like slam animation per character, per hero right now.
Yeah.
So it might have looked kind of wonky to try and do a slam animation unless you made an individual slam animation for every single hero.
Dude, side note, do you have that Wonky Donkey book for your children? Because my wife just picked it up, and that song is perpetually stuck in my head.
I don't.
Don't.
But
Ben,
please
don't.
don't.
Get it.
But please don't ever show this to me.
It's
I have
the most
enough.
terrifying
I have enough child songs stuck in my head.
Okay, good. Anyway,
Yep.
you said wonky, and it's just knocking around up there.
Yep.
But yeah, totally with you.
There's just no way you could create a slam animation for every hero for one ability.
I just think it would set them down and then start that stun animation, right? Which would probably look fine, but again, the coolness of the ability is that you're hoisting people into the air, and
I'm impressed they got that to work and look good.
Yeah. It is true though, like when you compare it with Kael'thas's E, the tech to just lift someone like that was there. So that's easier. When I first saw it, I was like, oh, that's really interesting and unique. But now when you think of gravity laps, you're like, oh well, it's
but the thing is too, just from a technical angle, and this is coming from somebody who scripts and codes on occasion, you never do something from scratch unless you have to. Like if you can reuse something and make it look good, you do it.
Yeah.
At least from a coding standpoint. So I assume that goes the same for animations. If you have something you can start with as a base rather than doing something completely from scratch, it just makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense to me. And
it
you know
does
what?
make
Like
lots of sense.
I just don't get beat up about that kind of thing. You know, I mean,
It's not something I notice in the middle of a fight.
right? Make the game work and look
in
good.
PTR try mode. I'm just like, that animation. But then in game, I'm not even thinking about it.
You know, if you want to play a game that has a lot of heroes that have similar animations, try Smash Ultimate, because I've been playing that a little bit too. I didn't really talk about it, but you know, there's like, I don't even know how many Fire Emblem characters there are that have the exact same kit that Marth and Roy used to, but there's probably like 8 or so.
There's so many of them.
So you know, just consideration. There's games out there, and then Echo Fighters of them even. So, you know, Crom's in there now from Awakening. But my point stands. Like, I'm just not too beat up about what animation set I'm playing with, although I do prefer Dark Samus. I'm just on board as long as it looks fine and works well.
Another one of the asks was Wrath of the Angress. Both Imperius and his target land standing totally upright, as if there's no visible reaction to the slam. And she actually answers that in that case, the reason for lack of reaction was due to gameplay. We had a rad landing animation for Imperius, but we felt it was more important for him to immediately be able to move and reposition afterward. For the target, we don't do knocked down animations. She said they tried a few different iterations, but ultimately being locked in place for a recover animation did not feel good, especially after you've effectively been locked in the ability for 3 seconds. Sometimes we have to make visual concessions for what feels the best. I thought that was a really interesting thing to bring up.
Yeah, it is. And it makes sense too, because like he's one that, you know, if you were even just a few steps behind after you get that move off, you know, he's not like Arthas in that the E when channeled creates a slow. Like you'd have to land the Solarian's Flare, the W, to get a slow off. I suppose you could do that. But even then, like being behind a few steps might make the difference between whether you can catch up to them, get around a body block, get another celestial charge out, whatever it is you're doing. And so yeah, that totally makes sense to me. I would rather just feel good to play him in those instances than worry about something like that too.
Yeah, for sure. And it's really interesting. So last week, the night he came out, after I got to play him a little bit, I jumped on HeroesHearth in the talent builder and put together what I called a Imperius tank build, because I was speculating he felt like a tank, or at least he felt like he had a build path that could really make him a solid tank. And I feel like he actually even has the kit for it. He's got a hard CC charge if you hit it. He's got an escape with his Q going outward. He has a slow with his W, and he has a self-heal, self-sustain with his E that even when talented later on can get you out of roots and slows. It can have a cooldown reduction at 13 that allows you to get it off more often. And then at 16, it's got a 50 armor while it's active for 2.5 seconds. So it's, as I was kind of looking around and playing around the towns, I was like, man, just this kit, especially his ultimate, which angelic armaments, which is a huge shield.
Yeah.
That you can use to absorb and take a bunch of damage. I was like, you know, they keep calling him a bruiser, and he certainly can be if you build him that way from a talent perspective. But this dude's got a tank kit. I think this dude can main tank. And I've been doing that in every single game, partially because he is still a warrior in the current system. And so it is queuing me as a warrior. Yeah. And so I usually am the only warrior when I jump into quick match. So I've been building this tanky build that I had been kind of trying out, and I've had a lot of success with it. He's super tanky. He's kind of a bully in a lot of ways. And yeah, I think he's main tank material, which is hilarious because the last time Blizzard made what we're shooting for to be a main tank, it ended up being a bruiser.
Right.
And now they're shooting to make a bruiser, or at least they're calling it a bruiser, and it seems like he could potentially be a main tank. So maybe they just need to make a bruiser whenever they want to make a main tank.
Maybe it's just reverse psychology.
Reverse psychology.
No, you're not the only one that thinks this for sure. So the final thoughts on Math of the Storm, again, not to jump ahead in the show, but shout outs again to Chaos OS. Yeah, he calls out too, and I'll quote this directly. His kit on the surface seems to be a bruiser, but there's a possibility Blizzard may have accidentally created a tank. And then he calls out a lot of those same points about like how the initiation's good, survivability. You can escape again with the Q if needed and all that good stuff. So yeah, I'm kind of with you. I actually, if you get the chance to play him in a game like I did, I of course was in quick match. I queued up against a set of opponents that were all auto attack based. It was like, oh, we had like a Tracer, and I think someone was doing Butcher and a few other like AA characters. So I immediately I was like, okay, well I'm just gonna take all of the anti-attack damage talents that I can, and yeah, I was super tanky. And when I took those talents, it was a giant power spike for me in all of those regards. So yeah, I'm kind of with you. It'll take some more experimenting, but
he really can be a tank. From a tank perspective, he really spikes at 13 and 16.
Yeah, I'll agree
where you
with
get the cooldown on your E, and then you get that big chunk of armor on your E, and your survivability just goes through the roof. And I mean, when you get your heroic, because angelic armaments is only on a 60-second cooldown.
It's up almost all the time. It feels like
it's up almost every team fight that you would need it to be up. And then as long as it doesn't get broken, you've got a decent damage attack right afterwards. One of the things I found has really helped me has been putting, because I normally quick cast everything. Like absolutely everything. Right. But I actually have turned his Q to on release. And the reason I did that is because his Q is a little finicky. Because you have to hit, if you look at the icon, you've got your big circle, and then you've got your spear looking icon on the ground. You have to get the people within that hit the people with that spear icon to actually stab them and pull them up. And then you have an adjustable charge range before you actually do your spear attack. And so that's what I was not seeing when I was just doing straight quick casting right away, was I can adjust that charge length so that I can just, if I wanted to, I could drop the spear literally right next to me and just hit someone in front of me and lift them up with no charge at all, essentially. Or I can do my full charge and then lift people up. And that changed the game for me entirely.
Yeah, that's a good tip. And I read that somewhere too. I don't remember where, that like if you're trying to spear someone in melee range, you almost have to put your cursor within the model of Imperius to just get like the closest, just little stabby range.
It's much easier with the on release. So much
because you
easier
actually
to
see the icons.
Yeah,
and such.
Yep.
That would be one to change over to that if you guys are constantly quick casters.
Yep. So that's my pre-tip before we do our hero of the week next week.
A tip about how to use the tip of a spear. Don't just say the tip. People are going to get weird ideas.
Yep, that's true.
Yeah.
Just the tip of the spear.
That's right.
Yes.
Could that be an episode title? Probably not. I don't know.
Probably.
We'll see.
But he's going to
float it to our friends at Lagging Balls, at least, for sure.
Yeah, they would say yes. But yeah, he's tons of fun. Get in there, try him out. Try out. There's several builds floating around. My tank build that I'm playing with is over on HeroesHearth. If you want to check that one out, I've seen some really good bruiser builds going around as well. So yeah, make sure to check all that stuff out. In the notes that had gone live, we do have some developer comments now on both the on Abathur. And that was the big one, because they changed Evolved Monstrosity. They increased its health from 1,000 to 1,350. They increased the basic attack damage from 73 to 85, but then they reduced the scaling. The health bonus per minion killed was reduced from 5 to 2, and the damage bonus per minion killed was reduced from 5 to 2. And so in their comment, and people on Reddit had done the math, and it's just like, well, it's an initial buff, but it falls off after like 13 minions for health and like 7 minions for damage.
Yeah, it's pretty quick. When I read that, I was like,
yeah. And so the developer comment for this was, we discovered an issue with Evolved Monstrosity where its damage scaling was incorrect. To fix the bug, we would have massively increased its basic attack damage once it was fully stacked, which is already fairly high. Instead, we are taking this opportunity to retune the monstrosity so that it is not quite so powerful once fully stacked, but is stronger right away, which should be an overall buff in most use cases. So that's interesting. So this was due to fixing a bug. With
I'm
a bug.
Wondering, on a bug. Yes, indeed. I'm wondering about this one. I haven't had a chance to try it. Strangely, I did play some Abathur recently. I was doing your classic Twin Blades Abathur with Jason Lucas from the Starting Zone.
Good.
Actually. It was a good time. But yeah, like I obviously wanted to, clone people in that one. But yeah. I don't know. I'll have to try it out, because like it is true. We talked about this the other week too, but there were some times where you would go toe to toe with that guy and be like, wait a minute, this thing should not be just chunking my health bar. So I don't know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's fully stacked. Like if you let that thing get fully stacked, that could 1v1 most heroes.
Which was fun as the Abathur.
Yeah, which is pretty crazy. They also added a developer comment to the Arthas change, which for his summon Cindergosa, it no longer disables enemy summons, and enemy summons are now slowed by 60% for 4 seconds instead. They said this change was primarily being made to address cases where Cindergosa would disable high-impact summons like Jaina's Water Elemental for exceptionally long periods of time. Now enemy summons who find themselves in the sight of a giant undead frost dragon will only tremble in fear instead of being frozen by it.
Yeah, I wonder how long it was.
I think Cindergosa is like 10 or 20 seconds or something like that.
And how long does the water elemental stay up? I wonder if it just like negated the water elemental totally. Or close to.
I mean, yeah, that's a long, because I mean, the ult is mainly meant for disabling
structures.
buildings. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so, taking the water elemental out of play for that long was probably pretty sucky.
Yeah, I imagine so.
I imagine it would be the same for the Gargantuan.
Yeah, it would have to be any of those, right?
That's what it made it sound like. To be honest, I haven't played Arthas Syndergosa in a long time.
Oh, I've been an Army of the Dead guy for about as long as I can.
Which is super sad because it's so much fun to play Arthas and yell Syndergosa as you're casting the ult, and then it flies down the thing and everyone's slowed and your team is just like, you're dead.
And then you flash back to the cinematic and it's like, but the truest victory, my son, is stirring the hearts of your people. And then he flies out over the, Yep. I'm with you.
One of the best cinematics.
Maybe the best.
One of the best expansions.
It's definitely the one I've watched the most.
The best expansion.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, so everything's live now. Check it out. Check Imperius out. Please let us know what your thoughts are. We'll probably have an actual question of the week again. Probably start that up again this week.
Yeah.
So look for that on HeroesHearth and Twitter. All right. So moving into our new, old, renamed tournament talk segment. Yes.
I think it's an old segment.
It is.
We're just bringing it back.
And
we're doing it just because we want to.
Yeah, not for any other reasons.
Yeah.
HeroesLounge, as you might recall, has a Division S they are starting up, which is going to be a highly competitive, crowd-funded tournament money tournament hosted by Caldor and several other big-name guest casters, as well as various members of the community. They recently posted an update on the Division S signups, and they are happy to announce that the sign-up opening date for Division S will be Thursday, the 10th of January, which, if you're listening to this live, that's tomorrow. But if you're listening to this not live, that's today, or possibly yesterday, or several days ago.
Or several months ago. Weirdly, like when you go back and look at the numbers, there's always people popping in on, like, someone right now is listening to episode number 112. Like, what?
Probably.
What are you doing? Anyway,
it's nostalgia. Yeah, it's nostalgia.
I guess so. Right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That means that starting right now, you can sign up on the website if you haven't done so already and start creating your team, invite your members, and then, of course, in order to sign up, your team must consist of 5 players. So their Division S will have a double round-robin format between 8 teams per region and ANEU. That means that there will be 14 weeks of league play. At the end of league play, the top 6 teams will face each other in a double elimination tournament. The bottom 2 teams will partake in the Crucibles, facing top qualifying teams and fighting to maintain their spots within Division S. Teams can qualify for the first season via our qualifiers, since this is the inaugural season, and so no one can be in there yet. Yeah. Every week in February, they will have a single elimination qualifier tournament per region starting the 2nd of February. The winner of each qualifier weekend will qualify directly for Division S. The rest of the teams will collect points based on their result in the qualifier weekend. After all 4 weekends are over, the top 4 scoring teams will be added to the 4 winning teams to form the first Division S season. Every team participating in Division S will end up with a share of the prize money. The exact amount is depending on the amount raised through crowdfunding and the results at the end of the season. All the money raised through crowdfunding will go into the prize pool, and you can keep donating to that prize pool until the very first week of Division S league play. They're currently at almost $14,000.
Yeah.
Of their $15,000, their second goal of $15,000. So, really, really cool.
That is no joke, that amount. And also the format and the way they're going about this. I like the things they're doing that mirror the HGC. in that you know, they've got the Crucible and they've got a few other pieces in their structure that are kind of reminiscent of it. Because I mean, I always liked the Crucible impact and like watching some new teams fight their way in there and make a name for themselves. You know, like that's
I think it's going to be
ends
awesome.
with a cool storyline.
Yeah. And so this is going to be, we're actually going to have seasonal type play and weekly league type games. And I believe Caldor will be casting a lot of it via his channel. I'm sure there will be some other casters who are casting it. We will, of course, have the link to this in the show notes, lordsofthestorm.libsyn.com. And you can go check that out. You can sign up if you want to try out for it, or they have a schedule and a calendar there, so you can check out when all the game times will be.
Yeah.
Speaking of something slightly less competitive, the Nexus Gaming series, who you may have heard of before, they are about to start their, I believe, 6th season, and it's right around the corner. And this is a kind of an all skill levels community tournament league type place. Close-knit community of people who all have a single goal, having fun. By the players, for the players, from bronze to grandmaster. Our community is diverse in its levels of play, and we pride ourselves on being ready, willing, and able to provide learning opportunities in the process of having fair and compelling tournament-style matches. The sign-up for Season 6 starts on January 21st. So that is nexusgamingseries.org if you want to find out more information. Their Season 6 starts February 25th. So if you're looking, and I know Heroes Lounge also has several divisions that you can jump into for these types of things. So if you're looking for something more like that, Heroes Lounge or Nexus Gaming Series would be great spots for you to jump in with your team to get some good competitive play.
Yeah, some
for
scrimming,
all skill levels.
And yeah, right.
Yeah, all skill levels. A lot of the information is in their Discord, so head on over to that website, join their Discord, sign up if you want to, and check that out.
And if you haven't tried it yet, like, you know, if you're listening to this and you're going, you know, I mean, I'm of kind of a middling skill level, so I've never really considered joining a tournament. I say just do it anyway, because like even the few experiences we've had doing it, and again, we're not grandmasters either, full disclosure. It's a totally different feel, because you kind of get in this different mindset, and you get just kind of hyped up when you're there, and you're really thinking through like all of your moves and all the call outs and everything you're doing. So like if you just haven't had that experience yet in any game, but I mean definitely Heroes, yeah, throw down. This kind of stuff's cool.
Yeah, for sure. As far as the larger tournament league play that HeroesHearth is developing along with several other members, there's no more new information on that quite yet. Hopefully that will be coming soon. Really excited to hear what those details will be, as I'm sure they're going to try and make it as big as they can. Because
I would think so.
There's a lot of love for competitive heroes still. So it's really cool to see all these communities stepping up to try and fill a little bit of that void that HGC has left.
That it is.
Okay, so before we wrap up what will probably be a shorter show, I said it again, who knows how long we'll talk about this. I wanted to do a little segment called Heroes Wish List. And so this is going to be something where we're going to talk a little bit about, now that the Heroes team is a little smaller, now that the Heroes team isn't necessarily beholden to HGC/esports for balance or priority features or that type of thing. What would we like to see from the Heroes team that is community focused, or things that people have been asking for a while? So Multi, why don't you start out?
So there's obviously a few things I could point to. One of them I saw you tweet about recently, I believe, and I just responded with a GIF there. Just the desire to have another hero that again breaks the mold of what you consider to be a MOBA hero, like we've seen with like Cho'Gall and Abathur and Murky in a way, just something totally wacky that isn't balanced for competitive play, of course, but could just be, I don't know, just zany and interesting and fun. And I think there's always been a place for that. I mean, Vikings, there's another great example.
Yeah.
Somewhere you can macro a bunch of different bodies throughout the map.
Yeah. And one of the wish list items might be a rework for them.
That's true. Yeah.
Because they have not been touched in so long.
Yeah,
I know a lot of people want a little bit of Vikings love.
Yeah, I know they changed the second alt, right? At some point, but that was a while ago.
They did some talent tweaks.
Yeah,
that was long time ago now.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I mean that kind of stuff I'm definitely into. I would love to see something like that. And naturally, the one I would love to see the most is Hearthstone Brew, the innkeeper from Hearthstone. But you guys know that. So I'd say that's kind of where my head's at first. What do you think about that first before I get into my other spiel?
No,
I got another idea.
I am all up for weird heroes. I think in a lot of ways that's what sets Heroes apart from some of these other MOBA games, because a lot of these MOBAs could not do some of the characters that Heroes does. Like, you couldn't do Cho'Gall. Really. Yeah. You couldn't do Abathur. You couldn't have a hero that just sits somewhere and just kind of does its thing. You just can't do that. And so having those special Medivh is another.
Yeah, that's a fair
like
point.
Mold Breaker. There's just there's several heroes, Vikings again being one, that break the mold in that respect that a lot of the other games couldn't do or would have a lot of trouble doing. That would kind of break them in a lot of ways. And so I want to see more of that. I would love to see that core replacement hero. Give it to me.
Oh yeah, okay.
Give me the core replacement hero. That would be
just release N'Zoth.
N'Zoth or Overmind. That's been a huge one.
The entire core area just becomes Ny'alotha. That's great.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that would be a super interesting one. Potentially, I don't know. I always thought the 2-player one was really, really interesting. Maybe not something, and I don't know who you'd use this for. Not something like Cho'Gall where it's 2 in one body, but maybe something where it's 2 separate things, but their abilities interact with each other.
Oh, synergize in such a way.
Yes.
Who could they do that with?
I don't know, but that would be so cool. That would be so interesting and weird.
They could have done it with Tassadar
but it's one hero, so you would queue as both at the same time.
Yeah. But like in Tassadar's case, or at least the High Templar, how they're supposed to work, I believe. And hang on, sorry, dogs. A StarCraft person could correct me on this, by all means, but it's my understanding from the original StarCraft game that you would combine 2 separate High Templar, which is what Tassadar is, to make the Archon form. So they could have totally done like a deal where 2 people queue as High Templar that have like synergizing abilities, and then maybe one of the ultimates is they fuse together into a giant Archon form that just wrecks house. So I mean, I don't know. That's the first thing that comes to my mind in the Blizzard lexicon of
talk about a Tassadar rework.
Fusing. Yeah, there you go. That's the Tassadar rework right there. You now queue as 2 of them, and they have like different abilities. One's kind of like he is now. One's more mage, and then you can like set one's ability up with the other, and they have all these talents that synergize, and then they fuse to the Archon form, but it's like 5 times what it is now, and it takes up. It's like the Ragnaros when he takes a fort, and you just wreck.
No, I think that would be super, super cool. Like, I think that'd be a very unique take on a hero. I don't know how you'd make it work exactly. I'd have to think through it, but I really like the general idea, the sound of that. I think that'd be really cool.
That is the next character design concept we needed to put on HeroesHearth. Maybe I'll work on it.
There you go. Yeah. We need to figure out a good thing that it would work on first.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I'm trying to think of other like common pairings in Blizzard. I don't know, because you think like Junkrat and Roadhog are kind of a pair in a sense, but we already have Junkrat,
You could
so
do
I
an
mean,
Ash and Bob.
ooh, yeah, okay.
That could be
Where one person plays as Bob.
Yeah, one person plays as Bob and one person plays as Ash, and their abilities like interact with each other and complement each other, and then
that's cool.
It would be super unique. It would probably not be a character that was played super heavily. Like it would be a Cho'Gall, right? It would be a Cho'Gall because you'd need another person with you to synergize with and play. But it would be so cool. Like, oh man, those two are awesome. Look at the insane stuff they're doing.
If they don't do that, I would say we at least need to follow what Scott Johnson said on the instance and have the character in Heroes be Bob, but then release like his ultimate is Ash to kind of reverse it.
I'd be okay with that too.
In Overwatch, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd be totally okay with that. What else you got?
Okay, so the next thing I kind of want to talk about, and again, we've talked about these over the course of these years several times, and this is just, I still think we could benefit from clans or guilds or whatever it is you want to call it. And I know like some people might hear that and go, oh, well, I don't know. I mean, if the player base has dropped off a little bit, which we presume it has, we don't have any numbers really to back that up or anything right now. And if it continues to drop off even more, you know, someone could make the argument, okay, but well, what's the point of them? And my point is, you know, the folks who are sticking around playing the game now, even now, are just doing it out of a love for the game. And they would just need more stuff in game to do to keep it fresh, keep it going, right? And one of the ways you could do this is through guilds and having like guild challenges that you work on together. So where I got this idea from, it's kind of a weird place. I'm kind of out of it now because I've got a Switch and I'm doing a lot of Diablo stuff on the side, right? But for a little while there, I got into a mobile game called South Park Phone Destroyer, which if you've not heard of that one, it's actually it's actually a collectible card game about South Park. And so like if you're thinking about trying it out after I give this little spiel, just know you have to be into the South Park humor or else you're just gonna probably hate it because it gets pretty biting there. But anyway, it's really interesting though because so it's a collectible card game, and the cards that you play onto the board then become the kids, like the characters, and then they just kind of fight it out and you duel, and it's kind of cool because every match is only 3 minutes and sometimes it can go into overtime for an extra minute, but that's it. Like that's an entire match, right? So the way they have it set up is it's like Hearthstone in the sense that you're collecting the cards and building your decks, but you keep building up copies of the cards indefinitely, and then you can use those to level up the cards. You get like better stats, all this other stuff, and you kind of like grow your account as you go. So it's actually pretty fun in that sense. But anyway, they have a guild system in that game where you join the guild, and so for instance, every weekend there's an event that happens, and it's always themed around like what the latest episode of South Park was, and it has all this other stuff, right? And you yourself are working on a challenge, so like a series of quests, and it's mostly in that game it's just playing games and getting wins. But in Heroes they could do any number of things, right? Like they could make this be kind of like the event that's going on right now in a sense, right? But anyway, so there's two different ways you can earn. You can unlock things doing it yourself, but then as you're doing this, you're contributing to your guild pool as well. So like the guild is then unlocking in this game, it's more cards, but in our case, it could be loot chests. It could be anything, other special,
like a mini version of the HGC Cheer.
In a way, but it's slightly different though, in that like you're working in game toward goals with your guild, and you're perhaps like, think of it this way: say you're in a guild, and there's maybe something really cool and cosmetic at the very end of a pretty tough to reach carrot on a stick. So like it's a really cool mount or a really cool tint of some kind that you can only get if your guild really buckles down and plays a bunch of games together, gets a lot of wins, scores a lot of, I don't know, tower and keep kills. I don't know, whatever. And the only way you get there is if you genuinely have the people together and work together to push through. And like as you're doing this, you yourself are unlocking things for yourself personally, but you're also showing your name on a leaderboard within the guild. So you could look at it and you could be like, oh yeah, TBK's contributed the most. Wicked's probably right underneath him, or probably way above him. I don't know. I'm just throwing out people's names here, but you get the idea. And it would just be an added incentive to have people in there playing the game and like specifically banding together and playing it together, right? There's because like when I first thought about clans, guilds, whatever, I just thought of it as being maybe just another avenue for chat channels. But until I played South Park Phone Destroyer, I didn't realize you could do like all kinds of other wacky stuff with it. And there's just so much to explore there.
Yeah, that could be really interesting.
Just a thought.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, that's a good thought. So for me, I have a list. Because yes, I'm a list person.
You're a list guy.
I'm a list guy. So one of my first thoughts was Shuffle Brawl. And what this is something I think the Heroes team could do with relatively low resources, mm-hmm. And relatively quickly to make brawls more interesting. And like the map rotation that we have for ranked play, we should have a weekly brawl rotation. So instead of just one brawl for the week or one brawl for 2 weeks or whatever, you have a list of brawls that you could potentially random into when you queue for a brawl.
Yeah. That way you just never really know what's coming up.
Yeah. You have mm-hmm. You kind of have, oh, here's the list of brawls this week. Oh, there's some pretty cool ones in there. Then you jump in and it keeps it a little more fresh. Because right now it's just kind of, for most of them, if you do them at all, you do the minimum number to get your loot chest. Mm-hmm. Right. But this could introduce a little more variety and a little more replayability in brawls.
Yeah, I feel like anything on your list here is going to feed into my clan idea too, because like in my clan challenge structure, we could have a weekend where it's like, hey, you have to play X number of brawls to unlock such and such.
Yeah, and if there was a bunch of brawls in a random shuffle, it'd be more interesting than playing the same one a ton of times. Okay, so shuffle brawls. We covered more weird heroes. More PvE stuff.
Oh, yeah. I was just thinking that,
I love the PvE stuff they have.
You could have a shuffle brawl of the PvE stuff.
Yeah. Get a whole PvE rotation going. I'd love to see, and again, we're not really throwing these ideas out with the concept of like the time or resources they'll take. Oh, no. This is more just like, what do we as a community want to see from our game?
Still love that idea of the 10 versus boss.
I think that would be so cool.
Yeah.
I think that would be awesome.
Both teams are combined. I don't even know if the tech exists for this, but both teams are combined. You got 10 people fighting something, and you're seriously having like tanks and healers and DPS like moving in and out of mechanics, and that could be so cool.
I mean, they've shown there's some interesting mechanics for their heroic mode for escape from Braxis. Like the boss at the end. Yeah, boss at the end definitely had several mechanics going. You could easily do something like that. Make it like almost a WoW raid boss where you have several phases. Mm-hmm. It'd be really cool. One other PvE mode that could be really cool is Horde mode.
Yeah.
Where you have to survive against escalating waves of both creep and like the enemy hero characters like you fight in the Escape from Braxis.
I was going to say, it kind of feels like Escape from Braxis, but you're calling for one that has no cap, right? Like it just keeps ramping.
It's all right, we've got a leaderboard. How many waves can you survive? Yeah, and they just get tougher and tougher and tougher and take more and more teamwork to make your way through. And then, of course, you integrate, to make things interesting, you integrate the item drops and all that type of stuff into it, like all the items you can get in Escape from Braxis, and it's an arena type thing. I think that could be really, really cool. And that would definitely give somebody... It was just like when Escape from Braxis came out for the normal and the heroic people are just like, what the... posting their times and whatnot. It'd be cool if they could get an actual leaderboard, either in game or even on a website that updated once a day or something like that. With this group of 5 people made it to wave 20. Yeah, holy crap, 20?
And everyone just loses it.
Oh my gosh. That's just, and like, see how far you can push it, and like what hero combinations will get you the furthest. And there'd be so much experimentation that you could do because we have 85 heroes or whatever now. And so it's like, what combos are going to be the best for this type of thing, blah, blah, blah. I think that'd be super cool.
To do that, you'd have to open up the full roster. You wouldn't have to do one of those, like the way it was set up where you could just choose a certain number of heroes per role.
Full roster.
Full roster, and you'd have to give a lot more time to it. Like, if it's going to be a seasonal thing, we're talking 3 months or more, because then that really lets people sink their teeth into it and get like a feel for that kind of thing. My complaint with the PvE content as it stood as Brawls before is that, we'd see it unfold over the course of a week or so, but we'd never really saw like a meta form around it or anything. I mean, there's a little bit, but you couldn't make adjustments like that and have people do just yes, there were some insane times and there were some other things like that, but if they open it up for a longer period of time, we'd see some insane times out the gate, and then a month later someone would blow it out of the water with a totally new comp and a new strategy of going about it, and that would pump people up. And so I think a mode with it would be the best.
Sure,
call, obviously.
Throw something next to Brawl called PvE
or arcade mode or something.
Yeah, something like that, to where, okay, let's roll with the Shuffle Brawl idea. You got your Shuffle Brawl in that one tab, and then right next to it you've got PvE or arcade or whatever. You click on that, and you've got these like tiles that one of them's Escape from Braxis, one of them is Horde mode, one of them is what was the other, the base defense one,
right.
And so there's several of those modes, and then you throw leaderboards up on your heroes website in a PvE or arcade or whatever section of the website, and then those modes are always there and always available for people to jump in and play.
Yeah.
Maybe they bring in new people who like PvE stuff. Maybe they have their own special cosmetics you can unlock only from that mode.
Or if your
cool
guild
stuff like
unlocks them through that mode. Yeah.
There you go.
Let's combine all the ideas.
Ideas. Yeah. So next on the list, I've got more custom games. I feel like, and again, I could be talking out of my butt. Who knows how much work this stuff actually is. But I feel like this is the time. Just open up every map and put it in your custom games. I want to see all the single lane maps.
Oh yeah.
In the custom games browser. And I want to be able to do non-tri-pick on the single lane maps for custom.
So we can start really
we can do Lords of the Lane again.
Yeah.
It's not shellfish at all. But seriously, like, it'd be cool to get... There's several single lane maps. Please just give them to us in custom. And then allow us to do blind pick or draft mode on them, in addition to the tri-pick.
And there's some single lane maps that are better than Lost Cavern, for sure. Like, Lost Cavern is fine.
I like the Diablo one.
The Diablo one's real good. Yeah. And then they have the one where, like, I think it's a variant of the Diablo one, maybe, where there's a camp that you could cap and help you push. So there's so much they could do there.
Yeah,
for sure.
There really is. They've got a StarCraft single lane, a Diablo single lane, the Lost Cavern single lane, and then they've got the Volskaya single lane, which is up and down.
Which was also cool.
Yeah.
And that had the conveyor belts and everything.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So I would love to see that. I would love to see them open up their sandbox maps a little bit more. We've got a Volskaya sandbox and we've got a Cursed Hollow sandbox. I would love to see them expand the options on those maps and then also allow Observer to take control. And then you could use them for legitimate tournaments where the Observer person is changing the values while the teams are playing. And you could get some really like, I can't, like, my brain is just going crazy with like Heroes Charity Brawl game mode ideas. If we could do something like that where the Observer is now in control and can scale the damage and scale the speed and the health or the cooldowns, the death timers, all sorts of really cool stuff like that. So more custom stuff. Next on our list of moving things up, custom game browser. Not only just these custom games, but a place to go and actually see games people have created, double click on them and join them, rather than just linking them in some chat channel that maybe 100 people are in or something like that. It would be awesome. And this is very StarCraft-ish. It'd be awesome. I just go in and I see, and I see this one's like ARAM on Lost Cavern, join now. Double click join. Yeah. And it'd make it so the entire population of the game would have easy access to see it and join a custom game. And if you have the things like the sandbox, it's just like you do this met with these crazy custom rules, and then that gets a little more Overwatch-ish in a lot of ways. So you could have cool stuff like this. A custom game browser would also, I think, be a huge boon for the PTR, because this could allow you to get into far more legitimate PTR games than searching quick match.
Oh, that's a good point.
And testing out new stuff. So I think that could be a huge just bonus for the PTR, even though it'd be awesome for live too.
Yeah, that one sounds like a tall order from like a dev time perspective to totally build all that stuff out, but at the same time, like, not to bring up old wounds and talk about the JL and Brack post that, shattered the world. But one of the things they talked about in that was that they are making steps to set up this game for long-term sustainability. And I think kind of like as you go through your list and as we think through even the point that I made, I think that's
my list is long-term sustainability.
Yeah, is that we are trying to think about what are some ways that we can really set up solid long-term sustainability for the game. And I think each of your points lands on that perfectly. So like, again, I mean, I wouldn't say that we would super fast need the custom game browser, but I mean, at some point over the life of this game, to keep it up and running for years and years and years, something like that would be cool, because then super long term, let's say the game really drops off in the 2030s, right? It's probably likely at that point regardless. Those who still get in for nostalgia, make a custom game, other ones join, you're good to go. You aren't even sitting in the crazy long wait queues that would exist at the time.
Exactly. And in a lot of ways, you saying that just moves on to my almost last point, map editor.
There you go.
We talked about this a little bit. The team will be smaller. There's probably less of a chance we'll see as many maps as we've seen before. Almost assuredly, we're not going to see 2 maps a year. We might see 1 map a year, maybe. I think a map editor plus the custom game browser would solve a lot of things and essentially turn this into a StarCraft arcade where now people can share custom maps they've made, but they can also share in some ways custom game modes they have made. And then Blizzard can go and cherry pick and take the best maps and implement them, either work with the developer or take it with the developer's permission, polish it, and then implement it into the game proper.
See, this also isn't totally out of the realm of possibility because StarCraft does this, right? So, I mean, Heroes is in the StarCraft engine, and presumably the tech to be able to set this sort of thing up exists because of that. So, yeah, it would just be kind of opening up that approach to this game too.
Yeah, and
I liked your comparison
I think
of
it'd be good.
kind of making it like StarCraft in that sense.
In a lot of ways, I think several of these features we talked about even have, especially if we change our monetization scheme a little bit, and which they have already talked about. And hey, now you can buy everything directly, which anecdotally seemed to be much better, and people spent more money when that was the case.
Right.
Don't know, haven't seen numbers, but anecdotally, most everyone I've talked to has spent far more money pre 2.0 than post 2.0, me included. So open your monetization scheme a little bit, and then start doing stuff like this. You could potentially attract all new people that aren't even playing, like the PvE stuff. Tons of people would love that. They would love to play a co-op game that's not necessarily a PvP game. And so I think now is the time for the Heroes team to experiment with stuff like this and potentially experiment with new ways of increasing the player population. And sometimes the ways to do that are to try other game modes within your game. I mean, and I really hate this game, but one of the best examples is Fortnite. Fortnite started as a co-op building, survive the horde game.
Right.
And they innovated on this new mode, and now this new mode became super popular. Who's to say that, something Blizzard doesn't strike a chord with some type of audience, and they say, oh, this is really cool, and it's Blizzard. And you get a whole bunch more people, and the more people you attract with these other game modes, the more chance you have of them trying the PvP mode out.
Yeah, you just then have to, Blizzard, if you're listening, you then have to catch on to the fact that someone's invented an entirely new genre of games, like MOBAs, in one of your games, and then capitalize on it early so that, you just have it right out the gate instead of letting third-party people take over, like Dota. Just a thought. But anyway, so, yeah, totally with you on that one. We did have an interesting point, too, from Cranky Hero 72 in the chat, who says to have true custom maps, there would have to be the ability for custom map objectives, which probably needs an API program to program the custom map objectives, which totally with you on that, because if we had a map editor, I don't think it would work if it was just reusing the same kind of
if they released their map editor, we would be able to make anything they were able to make.
Yeah.
And cool. At this point in the game, I don't think that's a bad thing. In fact, I think that would be a boon in a lot of ways. And I could finally work with somebody to make my map concepts real.
Yeah. And actually flesh them out.
Oh,
including art assets, right? Like, could you do
yes.
art?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. Okay.
You can do it in StarCraft.
Yeah.
StarCraft Arcade. Right. Heck yeah. That's how we got the Carbot mode in StarCraft Arcade. The Carbot mod. So
yeah. See, there's
a lot of possibility.
Kind of stuff gets me super pumped.
I know. And this is the kind of thing I think the Heroes team should be considering right now is long-term sustainability, yes, but if you give the community these kinds of tools and somebody makes some sort of really cool game mode within your map editor is now within Heroes, that can spark a population explosion all of its own. So I think, like I'm saying, I just think this is the time, HOTS team, to just experiment. Just try stuff and see what sticks. I think it'd be really cool.
Yep. 100% agree. I think what we all want, really, more than anything, is to have a Kotaku article in like late 2020 that reads, "Here's the Storm, the best game you haven't played in a while," and it goes over all these like feature-rich things that have come out in that time, things like we've talked about, other things we haven't even thought about, and just kind of sums up an awesome game at that point. And I think it's possible.
Well,
really even with a smaller team.
Kind of leave you with a success story too, because one of the big things you can point to is Rainbow Six. So Rainbow Six was a game that came out. It was nearly dead. Like there was not much going on. It had kind of came and went, and through the work of the community and great support by the company, Rainbow Six is now an incredibly thriving esport with probably one of the largest populations the game has ever had, period.
So thriving, in fact, that Ubisoft has now actually hired the esports lead over Hearthstone. That's really recent.
There you go. And so I mean, games, I think that's a great example of how games with passionate communities and smart decisions by the team that is working on that can bring games back. And I totally think that is doable from a Hero standpoint. If Heroes continues to work, if the dev team continues to innovate and introduces and experiments with stuff, if these community tournaments and these community leagues start gaining traction and steam, Blizzard can't ignore that, especially if the money starts coming in, if the population starts rising. So I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying it's not out of the realm of possibility by a long shot, and we have real life examples of things that have actually done that.
And obviously Blizzard wants that to happen, right? Like they, I mean, even from top down, they want to make more money. So if something like this happens, fantastic. Like everyone's going to be happy.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And finally, and this is an impassioned plea that I make every year, Blizzard, please, for the love of all that is good, bring back Big Head mode on April 1st.
I thought you were going to talk about the new the Phoenix dance that got scrapped.
I know. I mean, we made a pretty impassioned plea
also.
for that. But yeah, they totally should put that in too. But
yeah,
freaking Big Head mode was the best thing back in, I believe it was Tech Alpha. They did it for April Fools 1 week, and I love it. It's exactly what it sounds like. Every hero has a big head, and it was the most amazing thing ever. Some of the funniest games I've ever played. It's not something you want long term, of course, but for a week or two, it's super fun and hilarious. And we haven't had it for several years. I would love to see them just go, screw it, let's do it again. Throw in Big Head mode, and then watch the screenshots and the clips flow.
And the brawl that week,
be
for
glorious.
sure, Mario Kart.
Yep.
The Mario Kart brawl.
It would be so glorious.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, that's passion plea. Please give me Big Head mode.
Do they have to reanimate all of the characters? Like, is it an animation?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I would assume it's something automated. Or
Some I'm
something
sure
that
will
can
look
be
janky,
automated.
but who cares? Doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because it's the best. And then everyone can experience the terror that is Monkey Brightwing.
That's right. Google it if you haven't, but don't Google it if you want to sleep tonight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and who knows, maybe that's a question of the week. What is your dream idea? What is your wish list for Heroes in this community? Oh, Big Head Cuddle Stitches. Sorry. Thank you, Half Note. That'd be amazing. What is your wish list for this hopefully more community focused view from this smaller heroes team that may be looking to break the mold or experiment. Tweet at us. Hit us up on HeroesHearth. Send us an email, lordsofthestorm@outlook.com. We would love to hear.
And don't be ashamed to think big either. You know, like we even have had in chat a couple people saying like, "Oh, but is there going to be the population to support this?" Hard to say, but that's not the point of this. Like, think of how you want this game to be fleshed out long term for long term sustainability and the way you want it, and that's what we want here for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. All right.
I like how by the way you had a list of things, and I was just kind of winging it like the artist of the first round of Imperius's Wings. Been trying to squeeze that one in this whole episode. All right.
I'm so glad you found a spot for it.
Thank you.
So community content before we get out of here. First one is if you haven't listened to the podcast Heroes News with Jules Scott, why not? It's amazing. She does little like small summary of the Heroes News every week, and also an interview usually with a Heroes creator. And last week was me. So you get to hear me talk about Heroes and kind of our start. And we got into a really good conversation on work-life gaming balance. And that was really good. So if you want to check that out, I have the link in chat and the link in the show notes. It was really good, and Jules is an amazing person.
Yeah, how do you do that? Because your work-life gaming balance is way better than mine.
Lots of effort.
Fair enough.
Lots of effort and lots of understanding, and it's good. You have to listen to the episode.
Okay, I actually haven't yet, but I definitely will.
Yeah, it's good. Mm-hmm. And secondly, as we've made reference to several times, the Math of the Storm Imperius article. Chaos OS, of course, always does an amazing job on his Math of the Storm, where he dives in deep into the hero's kit and each of the talent levels and what is optimal, what might be underpowered, and kind of a few builds at the end and an overall analysis. So if you want to know a little more, get into the nitty-gritty details of Imperius, definitely check out his article. Again, linked in the Twitch chat and will be in the show notes.
This is actually a super good one to read in full if you're interested in like playing Imperius well. He gets down to the details of even like the best way to aim the W, Solarian's fire. In that, like, he's breaking it down to where if you're lined up with someone, you aim at an angle, basically the hypotenuse of a right triangle to land it, because it's such a slow, missile speed on how that comes out of him. And it's just so interesting. And obviously for all of this, he's giving the numbers. Like, he's telling you the missile speed of Solarian's fire and all this stuff. So it's just so well done. It always is, but for some reason, this one in particular really rung true to me. Had a lot of really interesting tidbits as you just read through the abilities and everything too.
Yeah, he does a great job.
Always.
He's an awesome asset to the community. So go check that out. All right, well, we're done. That's it.
We did it.
It's a shorter show. Crazy.
Yeah. And yet it wasn't as short as we thought it might be, because
never is.
No, yeah.
Never is.
But not 2.5 hours.
Not 2.5 hours. But before we head out of here, Multi, why don't you tell everybody where we can be reached?
Well, you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and we've got a Patreon as well, Lords of the Storm, for all of that. Thanks again to anyone who's ever even thought about giving to the Patreon. But it seriously means a ton to us. I don't harp on it enough, and I don't want to too much even here. But again, like, those of you guys who've stuck around in there for quite a while means the world to us, for sure. We've also got twitch.tv/HeroesHearth now, which is live Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Central. That's still the same, but, channels changed a bit. But you can still find us in-game by typing /join space LOTS, or you can join our Discord at bit.ly/lotsdiscord. And if you want to email us with any feedback or questions or brilliant ideas for the sustainability of the game that we didn't think of yet, that's at lordsofthestorm@outlook.com. And the other thing you can really do to help out the show, especially these days even, is to leave a review. So 5-star iTunes would be cool. I tell you what, haven't checked on there in a little bit to see if there's any new ones. Have you been on there recently? I might hop on as we go here.
We can probably round any up and talk about it next show. Yeah,
we sure will. We sure will. So send them in, because next show, man, we're calling them out.
That's right.
And that's where I'm pausing.
You can also find us individually. You can find me on Twitter over at TBKZord, over on HeroesHearth. You can check out my blog there. And probably, I don't know, I guess we're going to make a new hero concept or something at some point.
Tassadar rework, man.
That's right. That's right. Get that Tassadar rework in. You can also check out Gizmo's stuff on Twitter at Gizmozord. You can check him out on Convert to Raid, presents the BattleNet News, which is Tuesday nights. He's on there usually once or twice a month. And he also streams at twitch.tv/Gizmozord. What about you, Multi?
I'm on Twitter at Multizord. I'm also on another show called Hearth Casual with Ro from Rail Maintenance, Brian Black. And this actually, so we took last week off. We had a bit of we crossed our streams there, and it just ended up determining that it was a good week to take off. But that means that this week's the full week. So we're back on. We got interesting new brawl actually happening right now, and a bunch else to talk about for sure. So yeah, Hearth Casual for all that stuff for sure.
Cool. We would like to thank our patron producer, HeroesZord, for helping support the show. Thank you to all our patrons and all our listeners. We love you guys. Hop into the Nexus. Try Imperius out. He's a lot of fun. We'll be hitting him up next week for our Hero of the Week to go over some builds for him. So until then, we will catch you later.
Golden Chicken Mount, remember. Base tint.